This is the Tuesday, April 21st, 2020 meeting of the Berlin Council on Aging. As a preliminary matter, please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you. Take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. This is Robert Blair, Chairman of the Council on Aging. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the media presentation are present and can hear me prior to me calling the meeting to order. COA members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Robert Blair, present. Kate Bliss.
Present.
Lori Fairbay.
Present.
Francis Gill.
Present.
Karen Schultz.
Present.
Patricia Wheeler.
Present.
Ruth Wheeler. Staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Margaret Sardell, Workout Program Coordinator.
Present.
Margaret Nardowitz, Town Administrator. Mary Arata, Administrative Assistant to the Town Administrator.
Present.
We don't have anticipated speakers in the agenda, so I will not call off their names. With the quorum of the Council on Aging present, I call this meeting to order at 4:06 p.m. on Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. This is an introduction to the remote meeting. This open meeting of the Berlin Council on Aging is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Specific information and the general guidelines. I gotta stop touching this thing because it jumps all around. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and or parties with a right and a requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Berlin website at www.townofberlin.com. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, provided reasonable public access is afforded, so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. While no in-person attendance of members of the public is permitted, every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. The standard public comment portion of this meeting will accommodate limited public comment. For this meeting, the Berlin Council on Aging is convening using the Zoom platform as posted on the agenda identifying how the public may join. Meeting materials. The public is encouraged to follow along during this meeting using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Supporting materials that are available this evening to members of the Council on Aging can be made available to the public by request. Meeting business ground rules. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, I will invite each council member by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Council members and speakers on the agenda, please remember to make your phone or computer, to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until I yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with each other, please do so through me, taking care to identify yourself. Public comment portion of the agenda. To the extent that our technical capability allows, public comment will be permitted during the public comment portion of this meeting as follows. Attendees' phones and other devices will be muted unless they raise their hand and are recognized by me to speak. I ask each member of the public who wishes to speak to identify their name, and I will afford each speaker time to ask a question or make a brief comment. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. This is the agenda. I call this meeting to order and I ask Fran Gill to recite the financial report.
With the financial report from Peggy as of April, the donations were $5,422.45. COA expense, $5,085.39. Part-time wages, $12,396.96. More part-time wage, so for the director, $9,854.44. Bus repairs from Article 20, $661.65. Elder affairs, $4,990.75. Would you
Are
like,
there any
excuse me,
is there more to that, Fran?
would you like more?
Depends on what the more is.
Well, we have expenses processed since the last meeting, which was in
Yes.
February. Would you like that?
Sure.
Okay, from COA expenses, UMass Memorial, $120 for the van driver's physical. The post office, $80 for the annual bulk mail permit fee. WEX, what's WEX? For gasoline, $202.49. Special article, that would be the bus repairs. For Berlin Auto, $209.85. From the Elder Affairs grant. Is this all work off? For Tai Chi, 200? No, it isn't. $200 in February and March. Yoga was $675 for January and February. Dan McKay got $131.37 from Meal on Wheel delivery in December through March. April Crutch got $63.60 for Meal on Wheel delivery or mileage from February to March. Mailing supplies were $44.58. The PHN postage was $188.56. Gatehouse New England was $159.20 for advertising for a new COA director. And Jenny got $1,454.04 for payroll for between March and April for driving the van. Donations received were $122.25. In parentheses, we have $48.25 for senior yoga, $22 for chair yoga, $32 for Tai Chi, a $20 bus donation for late February and early March. That's all the money stuff I see here from Peggy's report. Well done, Peg.
If any members have any questions or comments on the financial report? Not hearing any, I call for a vote to accept the financial report as read.
Accept.
Kate Bliss,
Kate Bliss, I accept.
Lori Fairby,
Lori Farabee, I accept.
Karen Schultz,
Karen Schultz, I accept.
Pat Wheeler,
I'm muted.
just move your lips, we'll read your lips.
You're on mute.
A little indistinct, that's okay.
Pat, you're unmuted. You can, oh, hold on a minute. You mute yourself again. Go ahead, Pat, you can vote.
You muted herself again.
No, Pat, you keep muting yourself. Now
You
you're
don't-
good.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, I'll leave my fingers off the board. I accept.
no touch of the board.
No touch of the board, okay.
So you approve, all right. Robert Blair, approve. The next item on the agenda is the COA activity report for April by Peggy Sardell. This is a write-up Peggy has done, and it is available online. You all have received a copy. Are there any additions, comments, corrections to be made?
No, but if anybody has any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Hearing none, I call for a vote to approve the financial report as presented. Kate Bliss,
Kate Bliss, I.
Lori Fairby,
Lori Farabee, I.
Karen Schultz,
Karen Schultz, I.
Pat Wheeler,
Pat Wheeler, aye.
Robert Blair, aye. Oh, sorry, Fran Gill.
And Gil, aye.
Good. That's what happens when you don't have your picture on the screen here, Fran.
I know.
Sorry about that. Next item on the agenda is a discussion on the COA van purchase. Both Margaret Nardowitz and I probably have things to say about that. And we also have photographs of the van that we'll be getting that can be presented. Would you like to see the pictures first or the words first? We don't have to take a formal vote, just grin or nod your head or something. Okay, may we see
About
the
Pictures.
Pictures.
pictures?
Oh, do you want me to show pictures? Oh, you've got pictures. Okay.
That's the inside. That's the lift at the back, the handicap ramp. And the center portion of that folds down. The doors obviously open and then something folds down, a ramp folds down and you come in through the back entrance. Those slots on the floor, well, they're shown again. Slots on the floor are what you lock the seats into. And the seats will appear in another picture, but they can be moved around so you can actually put in a second wheelchair position if you need to by removing seats. Obviously, the exterior of the van has dual wheels in the rear, has a raised roof, and the floor is lower than in some of the other vans so that it makes more headroom and you can stand up in it without hunching over. There are two of the seats right there locked into their tracks. Next picture, there's the outside again. One of the things we're talking about as a real possibility is having a townwide or school-wide or both a design contest for what might appear on the outside of the van, if that seems feasible. And one option, as opposed to having a logo or information painted on the outside, is to have company produce, and companies do this, produce what they call a wrap, which is a vinyl film that can be attached to the outside of the van. It actually protects the van's surface, and it can be anything you could imagine, and it can even go up over the windows. You may have seen buses in Boston or Worcester, and they have advertising and other material on the side, and it actually covers the windows. You can see out fine. It's almost like having a tinted window looking from the outside. Here's through the side doors and the passenger seats, which, if any of you have ever ridden in the current van, will immediately appear a lot more comfortable than ours do now. And these are 3-point seat belts. This is looking inside the back entrance, and that yellow thing, I'm guessing, is the ramp that folds out and down so that a wheelchair can be tooled up inside. That's some of the paperwork from Mobility Works in New Hampshire, where we would be getting the van. And you can sort of see the pricing on there, which is $61,708. Is that correct, Margaret?
Yes, it is.
So we have a grant for $60,000, and we're seeking an additional $1,708. And what is the source, either Peggy or Margaret, on that for the additional $1,708?
Peggy, I'll weigh in on the $1,708. Peggy did reach out to Emmett at the Executive Office of Elder Affairs, who did approve use of the FY20 formula grant to be applied for transportation purposes, so it would cover this cost.
Excellent. So we don't have to ask the Board of Selectmen to approve a supplemental appropriation.
If you do it through the formula grant, you would not have to. So I would ask that the COA vote on use of the formula grant in lieu of what the board would have had to request with a reserve fund transfer.
Okay, and I'm assuming that it's possible that since the van will arrive without markings, that we can find out what that cost is and make that additional cost part of the formula grant money.
Yes, Peggy's nodded yes, and that was my understanding from Emmett's email too, that would also be allowed under the formula grant.
All right, shall we entertain a vote on approving that method of funding the additional amount beyond the $60,000 that we have in hand? Kate Bliss,
Kate Bliss, aye.
Lori Fairby,
Lori Farabee, aye.
Karen Schultz,
Karen Schultz, aye.
Pat Wheeler,
Pat Wheeler, aye.
Fran Gill,
Aaron Gill, aye.
and Robert Blair, aye. So
Is this
we
for everyone
unanimously-
cheers? Can I share the really good news now?
Absolutely.
It's not 100% set in stone, but that van might be delivered here to Berlin by May 1st, Friday, May 1st. And I will keep you posted on that, but that might be driving into the lot here on May 1st.
Oh, good.
Great.
When it gets here, we can tie it to the maypole.
We can all go for a
That's
ride.
right. Ribbons and
Probably
everything.
not, Pat.
That's right.
All
We
right.
know how to drive.
That's right. Good. My little agenda thing just disappeared. That wasn't kind of it. Here we go.
By the way,
Is there any more discussion on the van and its purchase and outfitting?
yeah, I believe that Ginny would be more than willing to drive us all. Been
This
thrilled.
van, by the way, will be delivered free of charge by the supplier Mobility Works in New Hampshire.
Oh, that's
And we'll
great.
have it inspected at the garage in town, and the police chief and I believe highway department has indicated that they're familiar with the registration process and will help with that.
That
But
I'm sorry, excuse me, through the chair. We did communicate with our insurer today, our insurance carrier, and they're actually going to be able to coordinate the registration process with us too. And Mary's going to, Mary's going to be in touch with them when we have it. So they'll take care of the insurance transfer and the registration.
oh, that's
Wow.
excellent. Good.
So the only thing,
Of course.
I think, wasn't the other issue that we would hold on to the present van until the new van is outfitted with whatever identification and numbers and so forth?
When the new, excuse me, through the chair again. When the new van is on the road, when it's registered and insured, the old van's going to be taken off our policy.
Right.
Okay, so when it's up and running, the other one goes.
Somebody asked what we do with it, and I had thought maybe we could paint it up in psychedelic colors and take it to the next Woodstock event in the area. Someone will snap it right up.
Well, either that or we could sell it.
Yeah, could do that.
We could
All
do
right.
that.
The board will have to declare the old van surplus. It's part of the procurement process. And when it declares the old van surplus, we'll look at all the reasonable methods for disposition of the van. It's possible we might be able to sell it for a little bit of money. So
That's
we'll
right.
look at that.
Okay, and that, then what happens with the money that it's sold for? Does that go back into the account that we took money out of for the
No, it goes to the general fund.
general fund? Okay,
Good source.
yes, absolutely.
That's right.
Is there any
It's
further
called-
discussion?
It's called rejuvenation.
Ah, I've heard of that.
Have you? Yeah,
I'm hoping to run into such a process at some point.
I don't know.
Yeah,
When we go for a joyride, I have a driver.
her name wouldn't begin with Pat, would it?
No. No. I stick to bigger units.
I see. All right, any further discussion on the van? Do we have anyone from outside the present group on the screen who's interested in commenting on it? Potential riders, whatever? No. All right, next item on the agenda is the status of the new COA director search. Margaret, would you care to comment on that?
So tonight, I know the Council on Aging is anxious to have a Council on Aging director in place. Tonight, I'm actually going to make a recommendation that we proceed with a preliminary interview process. We have a total of 5 potential candidates that submitted resumes for this position. So I need, provided the board authorizes this process to continue. I know a lot of municipalities right now have hiring freezes on, but I don't see this as an option to leave this position vacant for too long. I don't know how COA feels, but I'd like to start moving on it. So I'll make the recommendation tonight that we move on the preliminary interview process. That means that I set up a panel of local stakeholders. I'd like a member of the Council on Aging to serve on that panel. So if you'd like to designate a member of your group to serve on it, I would do that. And then I would have probably 2 other members serving on the preliminary interview panel. And we'd bring, hopefully, at least 2 candidates to the board for final interviews.
To the which board?
The select board.
Oh, okay. So we are the Council on Aging is participating at all
You can
stages of
participate.
the. Yeah, that's good. I think that didn't happen on the last time, or maybe it did before I was on the
No,
board.
no, I feel it's important for a member of the Council on Aging to be in that preliminary interview room, asking their questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yes, I do too.
Is anyone within our present board interested in serving in that position on the?
I will.
Who said aye?
Pat,
Pat. All right. Anybody else? Want to arm wrestle for that privilege?
nope.
No.
I have seniority.
Well, that's not in
Wow.
full rank. Sneaky. Actually, Pat's the co-chair, so that's appropriate. Good. Well, any objection to Pat being on it? No. Wonderful. Then we have our representative.
Okay, and through the chair, if I may, Pat, I will give me about 2 weeks. But meanwhile, I need you to think of a few questions that you'd like to ask. I always ask the panelists to give me 3 questions each. So start thinking about the questions that you'd like to ask. Okay.
Will do.
Sounds good. Next item on the agenda is the report on the COA outreach to Berlin seniors. Many of you have actually participated in that. The town clerk's office, particularly James Wheeler, created a list for us of all Berlin residents over 60 years of age. The list contained probably 60% of the names having phone numbers with them, probably 40% not having. And so we did a little research and pinned on as many of the new numbers as possible. And people are still doing the calls. I've heard back from maybe 9 or 10 of the 30 volunteers who made all these calls. And they've been extremely interesting. The report from everyone who's called, who's reported back so far, is that they've thoroughly enjoyed the calls. The people that they spoke to seem to have enjoyed the calls and appreciated having people reach out, acknowledge that they are there and that they are being asked if they have needs. As a result of those calls, we've had requests for one of the items on the talking points on the callers list was, do you want or need face masks? We've thus far distributed 50 or so, and I have in hand already another 20 some needing them, and that's still with 18 or so callers not having reported back what the people that each of whom had about 26 people to call, whether any of those people might. So I'm guessing by the time we're done, we probably will have distributed 100 or more face masks. And by having all of the callers return their lists after they have spoken with people and gotten as many responses as they can, people that they couldn't reach at first, ask them to call back, then we will turn those lists back over to the town clerk so that they can update their files with as many additional phone numbers as we are able to discern from our work. So I think it's been a very enjoyable and fruitful project. I find it heartening to find so many people in town, and I think the callers found this as well, who are pleasant people to talk with, or people who are willing, and a number of people say, how can I help? How can I reach out? How can I do that, make masks or do this and do that? It's been really wonderful, and I think it's a neat exercise. One of the questions people were asked is to inquire whether they wanted callbacks, and I guess a few people have. And most of the callers have said they've had some really delightful conversations with the people they've spoken to. So score 1 for the.
Bob, Kate has a question or
Can
comment.
I just add something to that, Bob?
Sure, Kate.
This is Kate Bliss, and I made a couple of calls, and I will echo Bob's sentiments. I had a lot of really great conversations with people, and most of them were indicating what they had been doing to give back to the community in some way, which was really cool. But I did want to mention, I spoke with Barry Eager. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly.
Very eager.
Very eager. And he wanted me to remind everybody that there is a trust in the town that is available for deserving women or families at this time. And if you come across somebody that you've spoken to and they do need something, to put them in touch with Barry, or at least provide them with Barry's information, because I know there's a confidentiality piece to it that we have to be mindful of. So I did go ahead and pass along that information to the school system as well, in case there are any families there that they're aware of. But I was not aware of these funds. So I figured I would just let the group know in case somebody else wasn't.
Oh, useful information. Anyone else want to comment on your experiences as callers? You're stunned into silence by the delight.
I had to unmute myself. I've made about 2/3 of my calls. No one needs anything, but I also had some great conversations with some of the seniors that I don't know. So it really has been, fulfilling, but people seem to be aware of what's going on and they know how to reach us.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think through all this calling, I think we as a council have made a lot of friends.
I hope
A
so.
lot of people very positive.
Well, and I hope that that feeling continues, and that if people have issues or questions or needs, that they feel comfortable calling the Council on Aging and expecting
Right.
to get some useful response. I had heard from the COA director in Lancaster. We had, as I say, we had about 30 people involved in this. Lancaster had 78, but they're 2.5 or 3 times as large as Berlin, or larger than Berlin. And they had, apparently they have volunteers going cuckoo, supplying, doing shopping runs for people and so forth. In my experience, I haven't heard anybody say that they've been asked for that, which is, I think, pretty unusual. We must have a pretty hardy bunch of souls here in Berlin, or independent, at any rate.
Yeah, everybody was like, I'm
surprised that-
fine.
I'm surprised at how many of our older people, I'm talking people in their 90s, that are still driving.
That's scary. No, I mean, that's.
Well,
wonderful.
it is. And then when you meet these people, you look at them and they're very agile. They get around quite well.
Yeah,
So I think I think I really had my eyes open to a few people that I had never met before, and I've been in town a long time. And I was surprised that, but there seems to be like some people down towards Gates Pond Road didn't want to be involved in people up in the center. And then when you tell them we're all part of the same group, they say, oh, really? And then when they find out what we're doing, they were very amenable.
good, nice. Well, let's keep the spirit going in that case. What else? Was some other, does anybody else have any new business? Any additional comments, any projects, any ideas you'd like to convey? Not at this moment. We're always looking for additional material to put in the Powder House News, which Laurie is going to put together
That's
in
fine.
the near future. And articles about seniors, articles about the town, historical issues. Yes, Margaret?
Yes, through the
You're
chair.
muted.
I have something that would be a good addition to the Powder House, next edition of Powder House News. Tonight, I believe the board is going to vote to delay property tax payments to June 1st. So to provide some property tax relief to residents, the due date will not be May 1st, it'll be June 1st. So we can put together, after the board meets tonight, we can put together an announcement for the Powder House News. Because your next issue is coming out, in beginning of May or middle of May? When is it
Beginning
coming
of.
out?
Beginning of, yeah,
Beginning of,
yeah.
Yeah, beginning of May.
Laurie's husband is going to be very interested in that delay and
Yeah.
how the,
he made the recommendation, and I know a
Did he?
lot of people are in need of that relief at the moment. So
sure.
I don't know if Peggy has any concerns about putting that in, but I just thought that would be a good addition.
Definitely.
All right. If there is no additional information, let me see. I think we're ready for adjournment. All those in favor, hearing no additional news or business, all those in favor of adjourning, say aye when your name is called. Kate Bliss,
Kate Bliss, aye.
Laurie Fairby,
Laurie Farabee, aye.
Karen Schultz,
Karen Schultz, aye.
Fran Gill,
Mary Gill, aye.
Pat Wheeler,
Pat Wheeler, aye.
Robert Blair, aye. So the ayes have it. Consider ourselves adjourned.